Hey guys, in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can connect your AI agents to almost any software. And the best part about this is that you won't need to write any complicated code. Whether you're using Relevance AI or custom GPTs, by the end of this video, you'll have a step-by-step guide on how you can smoothly integrate your AI agents with tools that are required in your business every single day. We'll cover everything from triggering your agent to pulling and pushing data from various different softwares, and you'll be able to set up all of this in just minutes. I wanted to make this guide because it needs to do more than just respond to queries. It needs to communicate directly with whatever software stack that you have. Now, whether that's retrieving product pricing from your database or automatically updating leads in your CRM. Without these integrations, your AI agent is just sitting in the silo, disconnected from the rest of your software and your business. And let's face it, setting up manual APIs to connect your AI agents to all of these businesses can be a real pain. I know firsthand how time consuming it can be to set up one of these APIs, which usually involves reading a whole bunch of complex API documentation and then having to actually integrate and build these APIs from scratch. I'm going to share a few tricks with you which will help you bypass all of this. By the end of this tutorial, you'll learn how to connect your AI agents to everyday tools that we use, such as Airtable, which can be used for product databases, Make.com for automations, or CRMs. And we're going to do all of this while skipping the complicated API setups. Let's hop into an example now to understand the tooling concepts in a bit more detail. I've created a sales product inquiry agent to help demonstrate this example. So the way this agent works, it's got three main components. The first component here is the trigger service. That's how it's actually going to kick off its service. Then we've got a tool here, which is pulling information from a database. And then the last tool, which is actually taking that data and pushing it to a CRM. So I'm going to briefly explain how each of these services work. So starting off with the trigger service, this will kick off when a lead submits a query on the landing page that can be about a product, or in your example, it could be like a question or an inquiry. It then goes through this and passes that information to the agent. And that's how the agent knows that it needs to start working. Once the agent's taken that query, it's gonna then kick off and use its first tool, which is to pull data from the database. So in this example, the sales product inquiry agent is for a warehouse. So the product query that would expect from a customer is they want to look at buying tools from the warehouse. So based on the inquiry, the agent will pull the appropriate pricing for the tools that have been requested, and then this tool here, it will calculate the total. Once the agent has calculated the total, it will take that order and the value, and it will then create a deal in the HubSpot CRM. So it's taking all that information and it's pushing it to the CRM so that the sales team can pick up that deal and get in touch with the customer to pursue that deal forwards. So this is a very simple but very powerful example which demonstrates the key building blocks of an agent. And once you have all of these three elements, you can practically build out any agent that you may want. I want to show you this system in action so you can see how all of the parts work together. So I'm going to kick off the flow with the typeform entry. So I'm going to put in my name. Let's hit my email address and my product inquiry. So in this case, I want to buy 100 hammers and 10,000 nails. How much is this going to cost me? Cool. Let's hit submit on that. So that's gone off. If we go to Relevance AI now, you can see there's a task that's just being created right now. Let's click on that. And here you can see my product inquiry has come in for hammers, the quantity for 100, there's 10,000 nails. I've got my email address here and I've got my name, and it's now performing those tasks. And here the agent has finished working and it's given me a little summary in the task page itself. So a quotation has been done. The order summary is for 100 hammers and 10,000 nails. Total price is 2,500, and this information has also been saved in the CRM. If we take a look in the CRM now and the deals page specifically, this is the deal that's come through. So a name, it's got my email, it's got the amount as well for 2,500, and a note just specifying what exactly I've requested to order. So it's 100 hammers and it's 10,000 nails. So from here on out, the sales team is now free to contact me using my email address and take the deal forwards. And this is just a very quick and practical example. This can be expanded to many different forms of business or different products. I'm now going to walk you through how I've set up the agent. So for this build, I've used Relevance AI. I think Relevance AI is a really great tool to build out agents. It's got a whole heap of tools and other functionality which make it really powerful. So to start off, you can hit this top button in the top right corner for new agent. I've already got my agent built, so I'm going to go straight into it. As you can see, I've just set up the agent with its name and its description. Let's have a look at the prompt or the core instructions. As you can see here, the way I've set up the prompt is I've got role, task, and then tools. This is just a good, and then notes in the end. This is just a good way to structure the prompt for your agent so it's straightforward and it's clear to the system what exactly you want it to do. So the role is pretty much the definition or the identity of the agent. Here it's just the inbound quotation manager who's going to take the customer queries and look up the products, the pricing, and then return the pricing and then create a CRM entry. The task is where you want to break down what exactly it's going to be doing and how the whole system's going to work. So I usually like to call out how it's going to be triggered just so that it has a bit of background context. So it's going to be triggered once a lead sends a message. The agent will then be sent the lead's name, email address, what are the products it's looking at, and it's going to receive the product and the information in a very specific format. So I've made that call out here. Then I've told it once it gets that product, you need to look up the products in the database and calculate the total price for the order and then create a new deal in the CRM. Then it's important to then tell how it's actually going to do it. What are the tools it has? So for the sake of this example, I've got two tools. The first tool I have is Warehouse Get. So that's the tool that's going to be pulling data from the database and calculating the total price based on the items that have been requested. And that's exactly what I've done here. It gives a bit of a description and mentions what exactly the tool will be doing. And then the second tool is called Warehouse Save to CRM. As the name states, it's going to take that information and then push it to the CRM. And that's exactly what the description's saying here. And the notes, I always find it to include this note. Make sure you're professional when executing all tasks. It's sort of just a little behavior check note for the agent. I now want to have a chat about the first of the three tools that I was talking about. The first one is the trigger service. So I've built the trigger service in make.com. It's got a very simple flow, as you can see here. It starts off by a type form. If you're not familiar with what Typeform is, it's this online service that you can use to create these incredible forms. I've created a very simple form, which pretty much collects your name, your email address, and what the product inquiry is just in text form. Once you've done that, you can import a Typeform module into make.com and just create a new webhook and then attach it to Make. This module is then going to allow me to collect all three of those responses, so the full name, the email, and the product inquiry, straight into Make. Next, I've got an Open AI module, which I'm using to do a bit of data manipulation. So I've got a prompt here where I'm asking the agent that your role is to interpret the product inquiries, because obviously the customer may submit the inquiries in any sort of text format, and I need the input to my agent to be in a very specific format. So what I'm doing here is I'm telling it the question will be asking for tools for warehouse products and quantities. You need to make sure that you allocate the tool and the product. You need to allocate the tool to the product field and the number of quantities to the quantity field, essentially. And it's essentially asking it to create a JSON object. So as you can see here, these are my variables that are coming from the Typeform module. This is the product inquiry, this is the name, and this is the email. And then I've just provided an example. So if the customer is saying, I want to buy 300 hammers and 1,000 saws, can I get a quotation? So this is the answer. This is the way I want the answer to be. So like product one is hammers, the quantity is 300. Then product two is saws, quantity is 1,000. My email is, whatever, Sam@gmail, that's the person's name. And then the name is Sam. So then this way I'm asking it, I want the answer to be in this very specific format so that once it gets passed on to my agent, it's going to be very clear to the agent in terms of what exactly it's answering or what the inputs are and what it needs to work with. Always important to put a note here to say I want the output as a string, because sometimes it might give it as something else. So I'm just going to hit OK on that. And the last part of this flow is actually taking all this information and then sending it through to Relevance AI. Now, Make.com doesn't actually have a native Relevance AI module. So the way we're going to connect this is using a HTTP request. A HTTP request is essentially, we're going to be calling the Relevance AI API. And now I'm going to show you how to set it up. It's fairly straightforward and takes only a couple of minutes. If we now go back to Relevance AI and where we've created that agent, we're going to hit edit agent. And you can see here, you've got a whole bunch of integrations that you can choose from. So you've got custom webhook, you've got Zapier, and you've got API as well. So we're going to click on the API integration, and then it opens up this dialog box. Once it's opened up this dialog box, this endpoint is the important information. So we're going to copy this endpoint. And once we go back into make, we open up our module and we chuck it into the URL field. So this is the endpoint. This is how make.com is going to know where exactly it needs to call the agent. The method for this is a post method. Usually post methods are the ones where you're sending some information over. The next important part is the headers. So the headers are how make.com knows what type of information it's sending and what's the authorization. If we go back to Relevance AI, you need to hit this generate API key, and it's gonna spit out this authorization token. So if you copy that authorization token and then go back to make.com, what you need to do is the first header is going to be content-type, and that's going to be application JSON. And then the second one is authorization, and that's where you're going to be putting in that value that you've just created from Relevance AI. So chuck that in there. A few of the other settings you need to be aware of. The body type needs to be raw. Content type is JSON, as if you recall in the headers we've said it's a JSON slash, it's an application slash JSON. And then the last part of it is your actual request. So this is where you're going to be putting your message. So the Relevance AI has a very specific format that you need to use. If we go back to Relevance AI and have a look at the request body, you can see it's got this very specific format. So it's got message, it's got the role, the content, and then the agent ID. So we're going to copy all of this. You copy all of that and take it back into make.com. Over here, you can see you've got role, you've got the content, but except for hello, which is what we had in the example, you get rid of that and you paste in this result. So this result is my output of my ChatGPT module. And if you recall, that's where we've got the string, which has been formatted in a very specific way. And then this agent ID is very equally important that we've copied over. Once you've got all of that, you can hit OK. And then this flow is completed and it's ready to trigger your agent. Let's now have a look at the second tool, which is going to look at pulling data from an external database so that your agent can use that information. I've got my get warehouse tool here. Let's have a look into this. The first part of any tool is the variables. So I've set up the variables here. I've got product 1, quantity 1, then product 2, and then quantity 2. For the sake of this example, we're going to assume that the customer is going to be providing 2 products and 2 quantities, and then they want a quote on it. I know this is quite a restrictive or a very small example, but I'm using this to demonstrate the underlying concepts of how powerful it can be once you understand how to build tools that can pull data. So if we keep going forwards, the first step here is performing a GET request from Airtable. So if you're not familiar with what Airtable is, it's this online database service that you can use and you can spin up databases very quickly in a matter of minutes. So I'm going to be using a GET request, and then I've got a URL here, and I'm going to show you exactly how I've come to this, how I've constructed this URL. So if we hop into Airtable, this is a very simple database I've created where it's got the name of tools, it's got the pricing, and it's checking if it's available or not. If you want to construct the URL for this particular database, you need to go into the Airtable database and then hit this little button here down at the bottom right. It's called API documentation. It's going to take you to a screen. It's going to take you to a screen like this. And if we go stock table, list records, what you need to do is you need to use this filter by formula method. And it also provides you this tool, which you can use to build out your query. So using that tool, I've built out this query. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm filtering the database table to check by the name, which is which is where I'm going to be inserting product 1, like the name of the product, and then another name for product two. So I'm essentially saying, get me the pricing for product one. And also, if there's a second product, get me the pricing for product two as well. You then need to get a bearer token from the Airtable application and then just chuck it in here. And that's just going to be the authorization, as this is then going to give you access. This is then going to give Relevance AI the access to actually pull the information from Airtable. Once we've got that, this API variable is going to have the results. I've written some very simple code here to get the information from that API and parse it, because ultimately we need to calculate what the total is. So for the sake of this example, you can copy this code exactly and it should start working. I'm going to quickly walk you through what I'm doing here. I'm first defining, so any part of coding, you need to define your variables first. So I'm defining the first variable, which is items. So this is going to have my response. This is going to have the information that's coming in through the API. Then I'm defining quantity one, quantity two. I've got an array. You can think of an array as a list essentially. And then I've got a variable for total price. So essentially what I'm doing here in this code is I'm just iterating over the information that's come, and I'm taking the price value or the price element of that array out, and I'm saving it into my prices array, as I've said here. And then in the end, I'm calculating the total price by taking the first price, multiplying it by the first quantity. Then I'm taking the second price and then multiplying it by the second quantity, as that's going to be my items. And then in the end, it's returning a total price. So it's doing the addition. It's taking the price, it's multiplying it by the quantity, and then it's doing the addition to give me a final value. And that's where that's going to be saved in this total price variable. And then finally, I've just got a LLM step, which is describing to me what are the products that I've ordered and how many products I've ordered. So a very simple prompt where I've taken, product one, product quantity one, the second product and its quantity, and it's going to give me a little order summary. And then for each tool, you've got outputs. So I've got two outputs for this tool. The first one is the order summary, which is what I've got from here. And I've got the total price as well, which I'm going to be sending back out. And these are once you send both of these variables back out, they're going to be available to the agent to use for the next few steps. And lastly, let's have a look at the third tool, which is taking your information from the agent and pushing it to external systems. So in this case, we're going to have a look at the warehouse save to CRM tool. Similar to the other tools, I'm going to start off with my inputs. I've got the name, email, total price, and the order summary. Now, the name and the email, those are coming in as inputs to the agent itself. But my total price and my order summary, these are the two variables that I've calculated from my previous tool, where I've pulled the database, I've calculated the total and created the order summary. So those are going to be fed into this tool here. Using those inputs, we've only got one simple step here, and we're going to be making a API call to the HubSpot CRM. So in the HubSpot CRM, I've set up a deals page. As you can see here, I've got a very simple deals page set up. It's got the deal name, the amount, the email, and the notes. So this is intended for the sales team. Once the deal comes in, they can have a look at this and then contact the prospect directly on their email and then confirm the deal. To set this up, you need to actually have created an account with HubSpot, and then you need to make a connection. In order to make the connection, you can just click this add account button, follow the prompts, and then it will be connected to your account. We need to be calling a very specific API here. So the API pathway is this, as you can see on the screen. You can have a look at the HubSpot API page to see what's the endpoint. There's a whole heap of different endpoints. If you want to create a new CRM entry for contacts or companies, you can do the same. But for the sake of this example, I'm just going to be creating a new deal. The method that we're using here is a post. If you recall, I said post method is something that you use when you're sending information. And then in the body, what you want to have is this specific format for properties. So here I've created some new properties in HubSpot to reflect the deal. So I've got the deal name, I've got the email, I've got notes, and the amount. And as you can see here, I've inputted name, email, order summary, and the total price. So these are the variables that I've got as my input variables. And once Relevance AI executes this step, it's going to create a new entry in the HubSpot CRM. So it is as simple as that. Even with this example, you can expand this out to integrate many different integrations, or you can build this tool out to be a lot more complex, or it can do a lot more functions. But the underlying concept is you have the inputs come in, and then you're using integrations to push that data to an external system. If you enjoyed this video, please leave me a like on this video and subscribe to my channel for more AI use cases and more builds. If you have any suggestions for future videos, feel free to drop those in the comments. If you're interested in how to build an AI agent from scratch, be sure to check out this tutorial here where I've done an in-depth walkthrough of how you can build an AI agent in Relevance AI. Or if you're interested in understanding how you can build a AI agent and connect it to WhatsApp and automate your interactions with your customers, feel free to check out this video here where I've broken it down step by step. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.